not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. government.
For all things Halloween. This is Hauntformer, and everyone, happy Independence Day. Today is such an important day in American history. We get to celebrate our freedoms. I'm so thankful to be so free in such a great country. I'm able to express my freedom of speech in videos like this one. So, America, thank you. And kind of to celebrate the 4th of July today, I am going to be ranking the Purge movies. The Purge franchise has been a franchise of recent horror history, and it's kind of shaped a lot of the 4th of Julys in the past few years. Starting in 2013, the series has been going on for quite some time now, and now we are on finally the 4th installment of the Purge series with the newly released film, The First Purge. Even though it's not the First Purge, it's called The First Purge. It'll all make sense in just a minute. But that being said, starting in 2013, we just now got a new one in 2018, and there is a, I believe, 12-part miniseries coming to TV soon. So, because of The Purge, we are going to be ranking the 4 Purge films. Before we jump into this ranking list, obviously, spoilers are ahead, even for the new film, The First Purge. And also, remember, these are just my opinions, so even if you disagree with them, hey, we all get to share our opinions. If you have a different ranking in mind, leave your opinions in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I try to read all of the comments. With that being said, let's rank the Purge films. Coming in last place goes to The First Purge. Released in 2018, hey, it's the new one that just came out. And in my opinion, it's my least favorite of the bunch. I think what happened is, after the original Purge, each progressive entry in the franchise gets more and more action and less horror. This film tries too much to be a social commentary on things and isn't able to develop its characters enough. The editing is very choppy, it uses loud music and excessive swearing for no real reason. I just wasn't a big fan of this film. I know some people seem to enjoy it, but in my opinion, even though it's the newest installment in the franchise, it is my least favorite of the bunch. I really think the beginning idea of The Purge, how it all began and how it became so horrifying in the future, was a really neat concept. And, starting out with the slums and the lower income areas and working up to the entire nation, I thought was a really interesting premise, but it didn't work. It didn't come through fully, and of course, The First Purge has to get my 4th tier in this ranking list. Moving on, number 3 goes to The Purge: Election Year. This film came out in 2016 with the very heated political debate going on, as the election year was that year in America, which made it very relevant and very interesting. What I love about this film is that though it has action in it, yes, it also has horror elements too. I really do love a lot of different sequences throughout the film. In particular, I love that, they're trying to protect the senator from being killed by a bunch of purgers, but at the same time, it does give light to the fact that people are wanting to stop the purge, and there's a lot of resentment to that by other forces. I thought it was a very interesting film. It definitely had influences with the political debate going on at the time, and I think it still is a very interesting installment to the franchise. Going on to number 2, has to go to The Purge: Anarchy. This was the second installment in the Purge franchise, and you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This film came out in 2014, and I think this is one of the most interesting entries in the franchise itself. My favorite kind of plot line of this film is the discussion of revenge and how far you would go to commit revenge. Of course, revenge is something we don't want to think about, but it does drive a lot of people in their lives, unfortunately, and the main character of this film has to go through living in resentment. But I think at the end, there's a very positive message to be taken from the film. Other than that, though, there's a lot of interesting subplots with human trafficking. There's some very weird and kind of frightening sequences in this film. It definitely still carries over the energy from the first Purge film, but gives it a different light, a different twist, and it broadens the whole universe of the Purge. While the first film was very isolated, this film feels like it's impactful on the world of the Purge. But that being said, my number one ranking, obviously, has to go to The Purge. The very original Purge. How could I not give it the number one spot? In my opinion, I think it was a very monumental horror film at the time. The original Purge was a really interesting premise. What if crime was legal for 12 hours in the United States? It raised a lot of questions, and while they weren't all answered, it gave us a really entertaining and suspenseful film. What I really like about this movie is the fact that it's isolated within a neighborhood and mostly within a house, but it also raises a lot of social questions that I think it pulls off relatively well. There's, a whole sequence where this homeless man enters the Sandins' home, and he really, is trying to escape from death, and it raises the question, how far would you go to protect an innocent life while at the same time trying to protect your family, trying to balance all of these things? I thought it handled it pretty darn well, and for the most part, it definitely has a lot of suspense, and it is the most horror-filled of the franchise. I also love, a lot of the characters. The acting was pretty good. I really loved the very creepy guy throughout the movie who wears the mask. A lot of the Purgers themselves look very insane. It adds a really interesting ambiance to the film, and they pulled off the original quite well. I don't think any of the sequels captured the horror elements of the first one as well as the original film did. But, they tried, but nothing will capture the magic, I guess you could say, of the original. So there you go. That is my rankings of the Purge series, the Purge franchise. If you have a different ranking in mind, leave your comments, your thoughts below. I would love to hear from you. Now get out there and have a fantastic 4th of July. I'm Hauntformer, and remember as always, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.